Welcome to Healing Wisdom, a Thursday morning talk show featuring guests sharing their stories and knowledge. We discuss the healing aspects of the arts, metaphysics, social justice, and adventure through all types of terrain. So join me, Pandora Peoples, here on WOMR 92.1 FM in Provincetown and WFMR 91.3 FM in Orleans. We're streaming worldwide at WOMR.org. Our theme music is provided by Mason. You can find her website at masonmusic.com. That's MAESYN. Hello out there. I am so happy to be with my guest herbalist, Eliza Travisano. She grows herbs, she makes herbs, she has an herbal school that she's launching, and she's been studying herbal medicine for 20 years. She's been teaching for 10 at universities in Rhode Island and at symposiums, and she's going to talk all about her knowledge about herbal medicine. And I'm so happy to have you here, Eliza. Thank you for joining us today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Pandora. It's great to be here.
You had an herbal show originally with Stephen Brown of Great Cape Herbs on WOMR, and then you had your own show, and now you're in Rhode Island. I'd love to talk about some of your experiences here on the Cape. So when you were at Great Cape Herbs, you harvested, processed over 200 single herb tinctures, and then you compounded them into formulas. What did you learn there that you didn't learn at the Northeast School of Botanical Medicine?
When I was at Stephen's Great Cape Herbs, I went there in 2002. I went there for an herbal internship. And yeah, the stuff that I learned there was really invaluable. It was my first real immersion into herbal things. I had gone to the Sonoran Herb Institute in Tucson, Arizona, and studied a lot of Southwestern plants there. And then I was totally bitten by the herbal bug, and I found that there was this internship on Cape Cod. And I was like, ooh, that sounds great. Herbal medicine on Cape Cod. Okay. So I went to Great Cape Herbs and I learned so much there. That was really the foundation of my herbal learning. And one of the things that was super valuable for me there was, well, not only growing and processing so many of the plants, but also having that kind of a customer base. So being able to interact with that many people and being able to actually compound tinctures and make teas and stuff and blends for people and see them repeatedly, because oftentimes when you're learning about herbal medicine, that's a tricky thing to do, is to have a place to practice. And that's really, you just learn so much by, especially as sort of a novice, which at the time I was, always learning, but just having that many people to sort of deal with and offer remedies to and see how they affected them and how they worked and how they didn't work, which seeing how things don't work on people is even more valuable sometimes, than seeing that they do. It's always rewarding when they do, but when they don't, you often learn a lot more. So that was something that was really great about working at Great Cape Herbs and being there. The other thing that I loved was, there was so much experiential about it, just hands-on herbal things. And Stefan always used to say, one of the best ways to learn your herbs is to weed them. And it's totally true, and I really would encourage people, and with my school and stuff, I really want to encourage people to get their hands on plants as much as possible, because really touching things, if you think about it, there's so much information about plants that we get through touching them and through interacting with them that way. We're kind of a very visual culture. And we think about, if you look at something and then you get all this information from it by looking at it, maybe you know its name, maybe you know what it looks like, but you don't know what it feels like. You can close your eyes and have someone put a piece of kale in one hand and a piece of lettuce in the other hand, and which is which with your eyes closed, even though they're very similar, all that kind of thing, because there's a difference in texture. Because if you break them apart, I'm a big advocate of breaking apart leaves of plants to feel how the veins run through them, to feel how much resistance there is, all that kind of stuff. And weeding is really excellent. If you pull out, I feel like I could pull out mugwort in the dark and know that that's what it was, So you really get a sense of plants that way, which I think is super valuable. Just interacting with them over and over and over again. And the smells, crushing them and smelling them, that was something that my teacher Seven Song at Northeast School of Botanical Medicine would always stress, crush a plant and smell it and see what kind of volatile oils, what kind of smells you get from it and that kind of thing. So that's something that I really enjoy and advocate, is people just touching plants, as much as possible, dig them up, plant them, break them apart, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But as far as other things with Great Cape herbs are concerned, yeah, making the tinctures that we made, growing the plants it was great to learn, learn about how a lot of these medicinals would grow on Cape Cod, which is also kind of an interesting place to grow plants because it's sandy and stuff like that. And then just the harvesting of them, the processing, the drying, the tincturing, the making them into oils, really the whole thing, I got to experience and practice for I was there for 10 years. So for many years there, so that was super valuable.
Physically connecting with them, because we know like when we inhale things, it affects us a certain way, like with essential oils.
Yep.
And just just constantly breathing them in and getting the oils in your skin and in your feet, and like we know about microbes in soil and stuff, and there's that too, and there's the whole happy vitamin D component. It's just it's a euphoric experience, and I think it's a bonding experience with the herbal medicine.
There's no way that it can't facilitate connection with nature, with your environment, with your surroundings. And I've found definitely studying herbal medicine for these years that I never get to a point where I'm not surprised, where I'm not, it's always deepening and changing and, building on itself. And I'm thinking, and I'm learning things now. I'm thinking, oh yeah, oh, this thing. Oh, I didn't think about this when I learned this 15 years ago. And this connects this way, and just the way that, that's a great part of why I love herbal medicine so much, is because learning that there's medicine all around you at all times, like it just changes the way, or for me, it certainly did. It changes the way that you feel just walking through the world, walking through anywhere. And even if you're in a city, if you're in a place where there's not a lot of plants and you see there's a yellow dock coming out of the crack and, oh, there's someone, there's someone that someone that you've met, there's an ally right there, and you have a relationship with that plant, you have experience working with that plant and seeing how that works for people and stuff like that. So I just really love that about it.
Yeah, I think it helps to see like the perfection of life, right? Like, oh yeah, like the Earth's a pretty cool place.
Absolutely. Yeah. The interrelatedness of things and the whole, all the cycles, how plants feed us and we feed plants and all the rest of it. So yeah, absolutely.
So tell us about launching this herbal school.
Yes. So the name of my herbal school is Medicinal Plant School of Rhode Island. And I'm super excited about it. I've been wanting to do some kind of more formal herbal schooling for our herbal school for a long time. So it's a website that's going to have a lot of information on it, lots of articles, lots of how to make simple remedies and stuff like that. There's going to also be online classes, and I'll be doing some in-person classes as I go along. I really enjoy teaching in person the most. So I'm going to try and do as much of that as I can. And it's for people who are beginning their herbal journey. It's more geared towards people who are beginners, but there's certainly something for everyone. I'm endeavoring to make it that way anyway. And covering just all kinds of aspects of herbalism, the actions of herbs, how we can grow these plants. I'm particularly interested at this time in trying to cultivate some herbs that are harder to get, or also things like arnica. Like arnica is something that I use an awful lot of, arnica montana, and it's really expensive. It's $141 a pound, for the flowers at this point. Yeah. So just trying to learn if there are other alternatives. Like I've been growing arnica chamasonis, which is a variety of species that grows really well in the Northeast. So I'm excited about that. Just like trying to grow more of my own stuff, especially things that are harder to get or that are more expensive. And anytime I can grow something or harvest it myself, I prefer to. And it also cuts down just carbon footprint wise. I don't have to have things shipped, have things flown, have all this processing, anything like that, anything that lowers all that. I'm definitely interested in trying to work on that and think about keeping things as local as possible. And sharing plants with people too. I'd really love to start some kind of a seed bank or herbal plant bank and I'd love to get my dream is just to have like everybody has, an herb garden, or every town has a medicinal plant garden that people can harvest from and stuff. So, yeah.
Well, how amazing is that? What do you love to teach the most about? What are your favorite topics?
Let's see. So I just really love to teach about making medicines a lot. I teach at the College of Pharmacy at University of Rhode Island, a class every semester on making herbal medicine. And I really enjoy that. I just enjoy the processes. I enjoy, letting people know that making herbal medicine is something that you can do without fancy equipment, and you can just use plants. I just love that you can use plants. I love the idea of using things that you have and introducing people to the idea that, oh, there are plants growing close by you in your yard, in, public places and things like that you can harvest and make into medicine. So I just really like getting people, helping people get right into that process. That's probably one of my favorite things to teach. Anything that's hands-on really is what I really prefer.
And what makes an herb medicine?
Well, that's a good question, isn't it? Yeah. What makes an herb medicine? So, one of the things that I love to say the most, well, the thing is all plants are medicinal, really. They really all are. Whether people are actively using them for medicine or not is a different question. But if you go through, there's pretty much somebody somewhere who is using every single plant for medicine, or almost all of them. Even some of the really toxic plants, of course, if they're used in, like, I think it's David Winston says there are no toxic plants, only toxic doses. So, you have things like digitalis or poke, less toxic, but still a little toxic. Even plants that have some toxicity are medicinal. All the culinaries are medicinal. That's one of my favorite things, is that all the culinaries are very medicinal. So I suppose what makes a plant medicinal? That it's a plant, that someone's using it for medicine. There's so many, that's another actually, that's probably one of my other favorite classes to teach is kitchen medicine, because I like to introduce people to herbs that way, because they're plants they know already. So I feel like it's less shocking, or it seems less alien, if you're like, oh, here's this plant, basil, and they've been eating this for years and they're not worried about, is it going to interact with my medications? Am I going to have a weird reaction to it? Yet you could use it for medicinal stuff. So that's another one of my favorite classes to teach, to kind of go off topic and go back to your last question. But it's so much, it's just fun too. It's just fun sometimes, it's just fun to add new things to your cooking or add new things to your diet. And it gives you just it's refreshing, I feel like, to give people something new to do, because you're like, oh, I have some tea after dinner or whatever. But then maybe if they're like, oh, maybe I'll make some cardamom tea and I'll boil it in milk and I'll put some turmeric in it. And then it's a thing, you know what I mean? So it's nice to introduce people to new things they can do, get them excited. It's fun to get excited about stuff. It's fun to do new things always. So
do you want to speak to sort of magical experiences that you've had with herbal medicine? That could be anything from giving people crazy dreams or
Well, let's see.
So if anyone's just joining us now, we're speaking with Eliza Travisano, 20-year herbalist, starting her own herbal medicine school in Rhode Island. But folks will very shortly be able to take classes online. And the name of your school is Medicinal Plant School of Rhode Island.
The domain is medicinalplantschool.com. Although I'm just soft launching it right now. Yeah. So one of the most profound things I think I've seen with herbs was a friend of mine was extremely sick with the flu one time, and she had a very, very high fever, and I made some catnip tea, and we did a catnip. I just kind of kept mopping her down with catnip tea, basically. And the speed at which that dropped her temperature, which had gotten really high, I think it was like about 103 or a little over 103 at the time. It was just kind of remarkable. And whenever I see herbs work that quickly and that effectively, that's always kind of magical to me, for sure. A friend of mine cut the tip of his finger off with a wood splitter, and we brought him inside and, almost cut it off. It was half severed. So we stuck his finger in a cup with some yarrow tincture. It's like things like this. When you have the opportunity to try out an herbal thing, because you don't get it that often, one of the things that was really amazing when I went to the Northeast School of Botanical Medicine with Seven Song was going to the Rainbow Gathering, where we ran the first aid tent. So there were medical doctors there and we were there as well doing herbal medicine, and just being able to have first aid, it's so great, because you see immediately, you do something, you give someone something, and you can tell pretty quickly this works or this doesn't work. Because sometimes if someone has anxiety or they're having trouble sleeping or whatever, you give them a tea and they come back a week later and how you doing? Is it helping you? Yeah, it's helping me sleep. But, sometimes you don't know. Is it the tea, or is it that something has shifted for them? Or is it that they've changed their diet? Or, there's a lot of other factors. But with first aid, it's super rewarding, because you can just see immediately, if something stops bleeding, if something does this or that. So I didn't often get a lot of opportunities to, I don't usually run into somebody who has a serious wound that they just gotten, luckily. So we stuck his finger in a cup that had some yarrow tincture in it. And it was just amazing how quickly it sort of fused this. It stopped the bleeding almost immediately, which was crazy. And the blood actually coagulated in the bottom of the cup, which was really interesting to me. So anyway, so that was pretty cool. Yeah. And we kept wrapping it. We kept wrapping the finger with fresh yarrow leaves. And the way it healed, it was just amazing how it healed. He had, minimal sort of nerve damage and stuff. We also kept soaking it in St. John's wort, which is great for fixing, healing damaged nerves. So anyways, things like that. That was pretty spectacular to see.
Yeah, I haven't had as many opportunities to heal broken bones as I would like, but but a client of mine, he fell off a motorcycle and broke a bunch of bones, and he was taking gallons of my tea. And after, I think it was either 2 or 3 months, he was completely healed. And the doctor was like, you healed really fast. I've never seen anything like it. I think he said it was at least twice as fast as he thought possible. So he was just confounded. So, and this is like a really unhealthy guy who is like a drug addict and like not taking care of himself at all. So, I mean, there was nothing healthy except the tea.
I had an experience like that with a broken bone too. Yeah. With herbs and, mineral rich herbs and bone broth and stuff. And the x-ray showing like, wow, the doctor was like, this is healed, so much faster than I thought it would, and blah, blah, blah. So yeah, it's always fun. I've been using comfrey sometimes for fixing plants that are broken. So I had run over, this is many years ago, I had run over an apple tree in a house I was renting. It was a sapling, probably about as big around as my thumb. And I snapped it off at the bottom. And there was just a tiny piece of bark and a little sliver of the cambium layer still attached, just paper thin. So I smashed up some comfrey and put it in the wound. And then I wrapped comfrey around it and I put a cloth around it and I kept it wet with comfrey tea for about a week, and it completely healed. Yep. Which I thought was really interesting. So that's actually one of my that's one of my big interests, is using herbal medicine on plants, because I've had some pretty interesting results. I did the same thing with a southernwood plant that my friend Karina Stroh gave me, actually. And it got mowed. It's always lawnmowers. I should just stop mowing the lawn. I'm like a menace. But anyway, I backed over it or something, or pushed it behind. I don't know. Anyway, cracked it right down the middle. So I put a comfrey poultice in there. This was in the winter, and I wasn't anywhere near as careful. I didn't keep it damp, blah, blah, blah. And it fused back together. It healed itself. So that's interesting. I actually work in a tropical greenhouse right now as well. I'd like to use some plants like antivirals and stuff to see if you can mitigate viruses in plants with those too. Because it seems like plant medicine on plants would probably work really well, because they have so much in common. So
yeah. And I was wondering, because peach trees, for example, they get the peachy leaf curl issue and they have other fungal issues, but it turns out there's one fungus that you need in the roots for them to be their most healthy. They have a symbiotic relationship with a certain kind of fungus. I'm thinking that when people put copper, which they use for being antifungal, on the peach trees, that maybe they're also killing there's mixed results for everybody, because you're also killing the good fungus. So then maybe some herbal antifungals might be more appropriate.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. I know, it'd be fun to experiment with, for sure. Yeah.
Do you have any kind of herbal projects that you could tell us about for a medicine cabinet? Some stuff that maybe would be helpful for people in the summer?
Yeah, there's all those kinds of summer ills. It's a class I used to like to teach too, about that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of plants that are great you can make yourself a nice kind of itch remedy. But Plantago major, that's the first plant that I learned about. And it's one of my favorites. It's very common, it's easy to find. It's very non-toxic. You can eat it a little bit when it's young. You can eat it when it's older too, but it gets a little bit tough. But I like to make some tincture out of plantain. You can use rubbing alcohol. You can use grain alcohol. Obviously, if you're using rubbing alcohol, it's for topical use only. But sweet fern is another thing on the Cape. If you're on the Cape, that's a really nice plant that's native to gather, which is excellent itch remedy. Jewelweed is another one that's super plentiful. So it's nice to take a few of these plants, gather a few of these anti-itch plants. So maybe chickweed is another one, Stellaria media, which I really love. I've had some crazy experiences with chickweed. Just taking down swelling, crazy swelling and itching so quickly. And chickweed's one of the things, like when you put it on as a poultice, you put it on cold and it will heat up. It gets hot, like it pulls heat out so effectively. So chickweed, plantain, jewelweed, sweet fern. I like to make a tincture out of those. Sweet fern you can actually make it into a really strong tea. Sometimes that works better, or a jewelweed, same thing, boil it down, make a nice strong concentrated tea, and then add the other tinctures to it. And then a little bit of peppermint essential oil is nice too, and an itch spray. So that's something I like. As far as stomach stuff is concerned, you can always make some little bitters tincture is nice for, if you're on vacation, eating lots of fried food and stuff like that. You might want to take some bitters before you eat. So gentian is a nice herb for that. There's a really good recipe. Michael Moore, who was an herbalist in the Southwest, he's actually got he has a great website, Southwest School of Botanical Medicine, with just a lot of good information on there. Anyway, lots of information about Southwestern herbs that I find interesting because I used to live out there. And he has a nice recipe for bitters, which is gentian. I think it's gentian. It's gentian, cardamom seed, and orange peel in brandy. And it's delicious and really effective. So like some dried gentian, you could take a jar, put a bunch of dried gentian in there, orange peel, cardamom. I think I do about 4 parts gentian, 1 or 2, maybe 2 parts orange peel and half part cardamom maybe. And then cover it with brandy and honey. There's honey in it too. Cover it with brandy and leave it to steep for about 4 weeks and strain it out. And then put maybe 1/4 cup of honey in there to, 1/4 cup of honey to every 2 cups of tincture. And that's a really nice bitters formula. So you can take a couple droppers of that before you eat your fried fish and maybe fare better.
Yeah, I know in Austria, they put them in some alcoholic formulas, alcohol formulas. Like, I don't know, in some kind of beers that have a lot of herbs in them, at least I know. And it's really, really effective for weight loss that's revolving around, needing to move the bowels.
Sure. Yep.
And improve the digestion. So sluggish bowels. And it's so strong that, like, I've seen people get almost giddy from it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Like, it's not the kind of herb that like sends people like straight to the bathroom in formulas, like when you mix with other things. So what I've seen is, like, if to help with digestion at parties, like people get kind of like, ooh, I'm feeling good. I'm like, wow, like it's this. What do you think about pain and like headaches, and what are your favorite things for both headaches and also like back pain, which is probably one of the most common pain externally? What's your favorite for that too?
So let's see. So externally for pain, like back pain and stuff, definitely comfrey, St. John's wort, gotu-kola for soft tissue damage, that kind of stuff. And I've found that lobelia, small part of lobelia in liniments topically, is really especially good for really tight muscles. So like if people have muscles that are spasming or muscle pain, that's really where the muscles are really, really tight, just a small amount of lobelia in a formula topically will really help to release that. That's something I've been using lately. Goldenrod as well. Goldenrod topically, I found, is pretty powerful. And then also internally, I love to give goldenrod tea because it seems to have, and it's not really so much, it's not a use that I see reported a lot, but it just seems to be incredibly relaxing for all the muscles. So like tension the muscles, and also relax. I'm trying to remember. Let's see. It's actually supposed to relax the organs. And I remember an herbalist friend telling me that, and I thought to myself, wow, I never thought about having tension in your organs, but why not? So yeah. So then thinking about my organs relaxing, I was like, that seems like a good idea. So definitely goldenrod, I feel like, is a nice one if people's muscles are tight and stuff, just sort of all over, relaxing that. Let's see what else. For headaches, I've been really liking wood betony, Stachys botanica. And honestly, I don't have the best I don't have the best luck with treating headaches with herbs, or I hadn't until wood betony, which I've just found to be works extremely well in a lot of cases and quickly on a lot of different kinds of headaches. So that's my favorite. That's
so
my
you
favorite.
take it as a tincture?
Tincture or tea. I've actually mostly used the tea. No, I've only used the tea. Yep. The tea of the fresh plant. That's a plant that I grow. That's a nice plant to grow. It grows really easily. It's a great kind of border plant, has some really nice flowers. It's a good pollinator, pollinator plant. Bees love it. Yeah. It's a nice one.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I keep remembering what it is that I want to say and then I forget. This is kind of silly.
Oh.
Well, boy. Oh yeah, summer drinks. So, one thing that is helpful if people are going to be imbibing in, drinks this summer is taking your favorite tinctures and putting ice in a glass, maybe a little juice, little sparkling water, maybe just plain water, and adding your favorite tincture, and depending on your relationship with herb and what it is, like, if it's something that really well and you're not afraid of overdosing on it, you could give it a few really good squeezes.
Sure.
And then you're getting medicine and with your
absolutely. Yeah, that's a great idea. I love that idea. I've made let's see, Irish coffee with chicory before, with chicory and chaga instead of coffee. That was fun.
Yeah. That's awesome. And then people might want to start, if they're drinking like iced coffee in the summer, maybe if you're brewing it yourself, you might want to put some medicinal mushrooms, not psychotropic, like ushi and matake or
chaga, or absolutely. Yep. Yeah, definitely. That's a nice way to add things.
And chicory is a very like Café du Monde kind of flavor.
It's a little bit acidic. Not everybody likes it, but mixed with, some dandelion root too is nice.
Right. And it helps balance the blood sugar. So that's one of the medicinal effects. So digestion, blood sugar, and it has a lot of fiber in it, right?
Yep. And it's a prebiotic. So it feeds probiotics also. Yeah.
Really good one.
Yeah.
So I do highly recommend, if you swap out, a beer or glass of wine for a medicinal beverage, you could feel like happy and euphoric and, and be cleaning your liver at the same time.
Sure. Absolutely. Multitasking. Yeah. Definitely.
So thank you so much, Eliza Travisano, for joining us today with your healing wisdom. You've been listening to Healing Wisdom at Outermost Radio. All of our shows are podcasts at WOMR.org. Also check out healingwisdomradioshow.com and contact me at pandora@WOMR.org.